At the beginning of the 19th century, when industry was becoming America's religion, Brooklyn was considered the hinterland of unreachable Manhattan, and Greenpoint, in turn, the hinterland of Brooklyn. For immigrants, it was one of the key gateways to America. For some, the beginning and the end of their journey. In the second half of the 20th century, the area between Newtown Creek and the highway connecting Brooklyn with Manhattan was known as Little Poland. You could hear people speaking Polish, shopping at Polish stores, visiting Polish doctors, barbers, lawyers, and restaurants. But there was never a place like this in Poland. Watch the Greenpoint Tales.
So my name is Karolina Zaniesienko. I came from Poland. I was born in Poland in 1982, and then I came in 1990. I was 8. My mother was not happy with immigrating. Her whole family in Poland, and she had a child. My dad didn't really, not that he didn't care, but that didn't feel limiting to him because he didn't have, the primary role of raising me. My dad was playing music. He had musical projects with people. For money, he used to play at the church. On Saturday nights, they had danzingi. He would play there for money, and at some point he played in the subway, but that was more for he called it a Zen exercise to get more comfortable with negative attention, I guess, with his music. So he was doing that, but also for money he was driving a taxi, and him and my mom were giving out, spreading out flyers for phone sex companies, and my mom was cleaning houses for Hasidic and Orthodox Jewish families. I think my dad was happy. I think that they had a lot of problems with each other. They had personal relationship issues. And I think that once she got her parents here and her family here, she was good. And she had friends and everything. It was tough I still I don't know, I think it definitely shapes you as a person, for better or for worse. First, I went to Catholic school for a year. And then my second year, I started going to the same school, but instead of having a teacher, I had a nun teacher. And she, at the first week, she did something, she hit my hand or something with a ruler or something like that. And in that first week of school, they took me out and they moved me to a public school. So then I went to public school, 110, and I liked it. And then I tested really well. So I took a test to get into this kind of prestigious junior high school, and I got in. I was the only person to get in from the neighborhood. And then I didn't do any work at all for 3 years there. And finally they had no choice but to kick me out. And I went to some kind of like a hippie, like kind of progressive, cool school that had like, it was cool. But my mom thought that maybe I should aim a little higher. So she made me take a test to the second most prestigious school in New York. And I got in. And I stayed there for half a year, but I really hated it. And then I started working. I started working when I was like 15, 16, something like that. I didn't go from bartending right away. So eventually I had a few jobs that are different. And then I got a job at a museum. And I stayed there for like 7 years, but it turns out that in the museum field, if you don't have a degree, it's just hit a ceiling pretty quick. So I quit / got myself fired. And then I needed a job. And I was walking by a bar and they had a sign in the window that says they were looking for people. So I just emailed and they gave me the job without meeting me. And when I showed up, it was this old lady, Pani Helena, very old little lady. And she just let me in and she said, this is the cash register. This is where the beer is and the liquor. This is the basement. Good luck. It was on Manhattan Avenue and Freeman. And it was like a really, is an old bar and a really not a nice bar. It was called Murder Bar by the people that lived in the neighborhood. Because I guess somebody got killed in front of it. The people that I see the most often are the people who have drinking problems. And some of those people I really like and I really connect to. So that also so that's the thing. Just because somebody has an issue in their life, or they're maybe not living their life in the healthiest way possible, or they're not like coping with their stuff in the healthiest way possible, that doesn't mean that they're not worthy of friendship and consideration and like anything. A couple of years ago, I found out that there's animal life in Newtown Creek, which is super polluted. And all my life, I thought it was just like radioactive, like not, you can't even touch it. But it turns out that there's fish in there and shrimp and everything. So I started fishing in Newtown Creek. And I have a fish tank that is 100% stuff that I caught and found. The water comes from Newtown Creek. I go to the creek with a bucket and I refill my tank with the water. And my tank is pretty full now, but I still want to see what's in there in the water. So I just still keep fishing. I have a trap right now that I'm gonna probably bring up a little bit later today. It's gotten more expensive. It's gotten less Polish, but that's fine. Like in opposition to a lot of the other kinds of gentrification that happens in New York, for example, I think what happened here is there was a burst of Polish immigration when the wall fell. And they came here, and a lot of those Polish people were able to, buy a house or like move to the suburbs, and in that way kind of like move forward more towards what I guess they would want. But there didn't continue to be immigration, I think, because Poland joined the EU. I feel like a secret immigrant because I don't look or sound like an immigrant, so people assume I'm not. So in that way, I don't have to deal with the part of being an immigrant where people make assumptions about me that way. But I do feel like sometimes I speak to people about family stuff or just the way I interact with things. They don't get it, specifically family obligations. I feel a lot closer to somebody who might be coming from Korea or China And even though I don't have those heavy obligations, my parents are pretty like forward thinking. They're not conservative like that. There's still something to having like a family tie that maybe is not understood by people who were raised American, because American exceptionalism and individualism is so strong. Like I said, my parents are not conservative, and part of the reason they left is to have a freer lifestyle, like more the arts, you know, everything. And my interaction with like everything from Poland was like, it's a conservative country. It's a conservative country. But the older I get and the more people I meet from Poland, the more I'm like, oh, maybe it's not that way. Maybe it's not like I thought. And we got our green cards like 7 years after we came here. And I got my citizenship when I was like 23. And from my 20s on, I started kind of visiting Poland regularly and sometimes on my own. And I remember this one instance where I went to Kraków, which everyone says is like, oh, it's a big city, but it's like in the south, it's more conservative. And I was staying in an Airbnb and I went down to the cafe on the first floor, and like the entire staff was queer, like openly, visibly like queer. I was like, and it wasn't like a queer cafe. It was like a not a Starbucks, but like a brand, you know, something. I was like, oh, so maybe it's not like I thought. So in those moments, I've wanted to move specifically to Kraków. I think Kraków is beautiful. There is this movie theater, I'm not sure if he's still able to do it, but there's this Polish guy, who really loves cult cinema. And he used to have like a DVD and record store. He moved it into, I think, an old funeral home. And he imported like real theater seats from like some movie theater that closed down in a different state. And he has a one-room movie theater in there. And I don't know if he got maybe caught and he's not able to do that anymore, because I haven't seen the advertisements, but he used to every day for $7 show 2 movies that were like movies that he picked, that were always like weird movies that you've never heard of, some like experimental film, and then some like film noir. It's called film noir cinema. And then also, like, he used to do these like secret, like every Tuesday you'd come and he'd play like a film noir movie and you don't know which one, and you would just sit down and watch it. And nobody was ever there, so of course, like, I felt bad for that, but it was also nice to have like a whole movie theater to yourself. And just like, that's a wonderful place. There was a place called Club Europa. And they would have like Polish disco polo party, you know, like whatever. And my mom would go there, actually, when she got divorced. She would go there with her friends. But then they started doing like metal shows and noise shows and stuff. And that's when I started going there. It's expensive. It's so expensive. Even for me, like, I have a really good situation. I wouldn't be able to live here if I hadn't grown up here at all. At all. Like, not even for a month. I couldn't afford it. I think that people come here with the idea that it's freedom, and even if it isn't, the fact that so many people feel like it is, maybe that does something. Is mass delusion. And that counts.